I'm Dr. Sneed, and I am here to talk to you about the evidence of evolution. What proof do we have that evolution exists? What happened to religion? My name is Dr. Sneed, and I am here to answer this very important question. Evolution is a gradual change over time, and by time, we mean millions of years. There are several ways to detect this gradual change. One of the more sciencey ways of doing this is by molecular homology, or in other words, by comparing species' DNA. By doing this, you will find that many species have similar DNA sequences, extremely similar DNA sequences, in some cases. The more similar the DNA, the more closely related the two species are. Another place we can look for signs of evolution is in the developmental phases of animals. In developmental homology, you will find that embryos for humans and the embryos for other animals look pretty similar. They all have gill slits and a tail, which suggests that fish were a common ancestor for many of us. Yet another way to find out about common ancestry is anatomical homology. Looking at physical traits or phenotypes that are the same throughout many species can help us find out how related we are to other animals. Homologous structures are bodily structures that are similar but serve different purposes. An example of this can be seen in the appendages of many animal species. There is a recurring pattern that can be seen in the skeletal structure of many animals. Arms, legs, flippers, and even wings. The pattern goes like this: one bone, two bones, many bones, digits. By looking at these homologous structures, we can find out how related we are to other animals. These structures are also very important to finding out how fish evolved in the land animals in order to create many more of our species.
Hello, my name is Sarah Rodriguez, and I'm here to talk to you about misconceptions of evolution. There's bound to be some type of misunderstanding, correct? After all, evolution is a theory about the origin of life, right? Yes and no. Although it does include the ideas of the origins of life, it is not the main focus, which is what occurs after the origin of life, not during or before the actual event. So that must mean that someone can evolve during their lifespan, right? No, actually. What you are right now is an evolved product from several generations that came before you. Evolutionary change is based on your genetic makeup, and it occurs in the size of populations over time. If evolution speaks about how organisms change over time, they gotta be getting better through time, correct? Well, no, actually, this is where natural selection comes in. When one isn't evolving to adapt to its changing environment, natural selection will come in and select against it. An example of this would be when someone has a disease or some type of disorder or a syndrome, they won't have long to live. This is why several children with syndromes, different types of syndromes, they pass away very young. Very tragic. Okay, but even with all this, can one single individual evolve? Just like how one cannot evolve during their lifespan, it occurs within populations. It involves the entire species, not just one small section of it, or else part of it will evolve faster, and it'll just be an entire mess. Alright, well, since evolution is slow, humans obviously can't influence it, right? I mean, if it occurs so slowly, there's nothing we can do. Well, the truth is we actually already have. Several plants and animals have currently been adapting to global warming due to, we all should know this, overuse of coal or lots of carbon dioxide being sent to the atmosphere. And they have been adapting to the situation by having earlier or later breeding and blooming seasons. The more you know, huh? What exactly is the origin of life? How did what occurred at the time influence how animals were evolved to what they are today? My name is Dr. Rodriguez, and I am here to set all your wonders at ease. The idea of life originating from non-living material has been around for quite a long time, and the concept has expanded along with our understanding of science. The early ideas of this subject were very simplistic. If maggots were found within some rotting piece of meat, then it would be assumed that the meat would suddenly turn into the maggots. This idea hung around to the mid-1800s until it was disproved that only living organisms can come from other living organisms. Modern day ideas have grown in complexity, and many guesses vary greatly. All in all, most modern theories seem to relate to a scenario in which natural conditions combine, arrange, and produce organisms that manage to self-replicate. Through trying to figure out if any of these theories are correct, this poses a problem, which is that animals nowadays have such a complexity. Inside labs, amino acids have been created. However, this is nowhere near to a living cell's conditions to endure. So if that's the case, then how can a single cell just survive with the conditions that existed at the time back then, that were present millions and millions of years ago? Due to the lack of evidence for this, life, according to different types of views, either had a natural origin, which is abiogenesis, or a supernatural origin, which is intelligent design, because we still don't know as to how it began, and how could organisms like this evolve so quickly without some sort of intelligent interference.
We've learned before that evolution is a result of four different forces: natural selection, migration, mutation, and genetic drift. Today we're going to focus on genetic drift. Now, genetic drift is frustrating for us because we like to believe that the most fittest survives, but that's not always the case. In genetic drift, there is a random combinations of genes that may just be able to survive a random chance event, like tornadoes or earthquakes. A few organisms that manage to survive are lucky, not necessarily fit, and it is these lucky individuals that get to pass out their genes.
Are there other methods of evolution? What is genetic drift? What is gene flow? My name is Dr. Christensen, and today I will be talking about mechanisms of evolution. So to start off, genetic drift is when a small population either starts dying off or does not reproduce and eventually goes extinct. Here it shows how the small population contains different species. The yellow species does not have anyone to mate with, so it'll eventually die off as generations pass. The species that doesn't have as many animals will start to disappear. Now, gene flow, also known as migration, is the transfer of gene flow or alleles from one population to another. So in this picture, you can see how a bird from one population migrated to the other side of a mountain and carried its genetic material to the other population. Most likely in these situations, the genetic material that is being brought to the new population is not currently there, so it creates source of genetic variation. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about natural selection, which is the process where organisms that are better adapted to their environment will live longer and produce more offspring. Let's take Darwin's finches for example. The finches adapted their beaks based off of the food they eat, shown as in the picture here. So to finish off this section, the conditions that there must be for natural selection to take place are reproduction, heredity, variation in individual characters among the population, and variation in the fitness of organisms. Also, overproduction of offsprings results in competition for resources such as food and water. The action or process of classifying something according to shared qualities or characteristics is classification. The order in which animals are classified is domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. All living organisms are classified into groups based on very basic shared characteristics. Organisms within each group are then further divided into smaller groups. These smaller groups are based on more detailed similarities within each larger group. The domains are bacteria, archaea, which are single-celled organisms, and eukarya, which are multi-celled organisms, or eukaryota.